Oh my God, that was so terrible. Wow. Wow, that is probably the worst I've ever fucked up while launching anything. Oh, wow. Okay, we're gonna try this again. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see here. This is easily the worst launch. Oh, wow. Okay, let's try this again. New live stream link. Link here. Perfect. There we go. Okay, that should do that. Let's have a look here. I don't know if anyone can actually see this. Is anyone around in chat that can tell me if this is working? I think it's working correctly, but again, based on how things went a couple of minutes ago, I'm not entirely confident. So if anyone could just leave anything in the chat to let me know whether or not you can hear me. Okay, audio and video are fine. Thank you for that. Oh, that was awful. That might just be the worst launch I've ever had. My God. Hello, welcome to the chaos of any kind of live show. My God. Okay, give me 1 second because I'm gonna have to fix a couple of things on this just to make sure that it's not entirely just to make sure that I can somewhat salvage this. So give me 1 quick second. Going to remove this. There we go. And I'm going to share out this new link. Now, before I do, I just need to edit a few things. Yay. Oh man, this is certainly something. Okay. There we go. Right. So that should do that. Perfect. And now I can share this out, and hopefully we can somewhat salvage this. But anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here as I have a slight meltdown, as for some reason the launch of something I've been planning for a week just went to shit. So yeah. Again, you're gonna come across these things. It happens. And hey, I don't do that many live streams, and this is my first time scheduling a live stream, and I thought this should be easy. What could possibly go wrong? Well, that answered that question. But yeah, it's a living. Just gonna share this link to anyone who might remotely care, and they can join us. Let's see here. There we go. Brilliant. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Social Tune. And today it is our, incredibly well organized and highly anticipated final list of the season, technically. The top 50 songs of 2022. So, yeah, this has been a list that I always consider putting in text form like I did back in 2020, but I very much enjoyed the live stream element last year, and I thought, yeah, let's just do that again. And clearly it's paying off. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to the new year. Thank you, Hector Gonzalez. I wish you a happy new year as well. Thank you for those of you who showed up in the chat, and thank you for the feedback on the audio and the video. This is one of those lists that, due to the issues with actually launching it, I don't expect a huge amount of people to show up tonight, but it usually gets quite a few views after the fact, so, that's always nice. And I hope that, despite all the chaos, we can get through this and put together an interesting list, to say the least. I'm either going to edit out the first part of this, or I'm just going to this time actually leave a link so that everyone can know which part to skip to, because my God, that's a lot of rambling, even for me. Okay. There we go. Join us here for the top 50 songs of 2022. But anyway, to those of you who are here, thank you very much. And yeah, let's just get into it. So, 2022 was an interesting year for me because I spent a lot of it listening to more music than I have in a very long time. I even highlighted on one of my lists on the blog that it's actually the most I've listened to music since 2018. And part of that was due to traveling a lot for concerts and stuff, and obviously listening to music in prep for those. I saw a lot of acts live this year, which I'm very blessed to be able to say, and I'm excited to be able to talk about some of them on this list. You'll see once we get to them. But also, unlike last year, where I essentially said it was one song per artist, I've decided that since I checked out a lot more albums in 2022, we're going to expand that to 3 songs per artist maximum. I listened to a lot of albums. I really enjoyed a lot of albums in 2022. And spoilers, there are going to be some controversial picks on this list that I'm sure some of you will have opinions about. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoy this. It's going to be interesting, to say the least, trying to just parse through my thoughts for all the songs from this year. It was quite an interesting one. Right then, so once again, can I just get some feedback in the chat? Are you all able to see everything fine? Are you able to, follow everything I'm saying? I'm not hearing any no's, so I'm going to take that as a positive. Yay. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Smooth22. Brilliant. Okay, well, with that, we're going to kick this off with a gimmick that I thought up at 11 p.m. one night, and which I thought would be funny, and which, is going to show how low budget I am, but I hope you enjoy. So, number 50. Number 50 is Come On Baby Cry by Orville Peck. So, Orville Peck. Budget here at the Social Tune. So first of all, I hope the music isn't too loud or too low, but it is a ballad by a country artist who really blew up in 2022. Orville Peck's definitely been an artist who's been on the fringes of breaking out into not quite the mainstream, but definitely to the wider country conversation, even beyond indie country, to be honest. And it really did show with Bronco, which was a huge step up in so many ways. An album that absolutely shot for the fences and made for some absolutely phenomenal ballads throughout an entire album. And for me, at least, Come On Baby Cry was one of the highlights. Not quite the best one, but we'll get to that later. It is a love song where he essentially just tries to connect to somebody in his past, or somebody that he is currently dating, who he is trying to form an emotional connection with, try to get to express themselves emotionally. Whenever you hear these types of songs, typically they're from the perspectives of women trying to deal with men who repress their feelings. Well, here, Orville Peck has the unique perspective of a gay man who has to deal with male insecurity as par for the course in a lot of his relationships. It's an incredibly tender, loving, and sweet ballad where he's trying to be understanding and trying to invite this guy to open up emotionally, and it's really beautiful. Orville Peck sounds phenomenal. The instrumentation really soars once it hits the hook, and it is an absolutely kick-ass song to start off this list. If you haven't checked out Bronco, fix that. Cool. So I heard a little bit of feedback that the audio was a bit weird. I hope it's not too bad. If it really gets too bad, somebody will notify me, I'm sure. But anyway, moving on from there, we have Glimpse of Us by Joji. I've already talked about this song at length. It was my favorite hit song of the entire year, not counting carryovers from previous years, but still, this is an amazing song. Not quite Joji's best. If you've been a fan of Joji for a few years, you know that not only has he made some absolutely phenomenal songs, but he's made this list before. Run made my top 50 back in 2020 and a fair bit higher than this. But that being said, there's just so much to love about this ballad. It's a complicated emotional song where he can't get over his ex and he hates himself for it. And yet, even though this girl that he's with now loves him, supports him, and is everything he needs, he keeps comparing her to the ex that he misses. And there's a part of him that hates himself for it. There's a part of him that wishes he could catch a glimpse of that same magic in this new relationship. But so far, it's just not to be. It's a really tragic song. It's full of very layered emotions. It's absolutely beautiful, and Joji gives one of his best ever performances. It's an absolutely amazing ballad. A lot of you have probably heard it, and there's a very good reason for that. Excellent song. So, going from there, we transition to number 48. The Josh Ramsay show is here, baby. It is Delirious by Josh Ramsay and Fefe Dobson. So, this album, a passion project of Josh Ramsay, which he decided to put together on his own without the other members of Marianas Trench to essentially show that he is just as good as a solo act as with the rest of the band. In my opinion, he didn't quite succeed as well. This is not quite as amazing as, you know, certain albums that he's done in the past with the full band. But the album is still consistently enjoyable, and despite some odd experiments that don't entirely work, there's just so much quality on this album. And Josh Ramsay really shows himself as a jack of all trades who's capable of doing all different types of music. And for me, at least, this is one of the songs that stuck with me the most. It's a great song, a great duet between him and Fefe Dobson that reaches incredible heights as they both deliver phenomenal vocal performances that shoot for the stars. It's two people that are just deliriously in love, beside themselves, almost annoyingly poetic in the way that they describe their love for each other, and yet they have so much similar vocabulary with, I mean, Fefe Dobson uses the word sycophantic on here. It's like they were made for each other. It's a beautiful song with two beautiful performers. It's a duet between two singers that I think works incredibly well. And while once again, not my favorite off the album, it is a clear sign that people should be paying more attention to Josh Ramsay, even outside of Marianas Trench. If you haven't heard the solo project, it's not for everyone, but the gems on it are definitely worth checking out. Right then, so number 47, bit of a curveball with this one, and I need to find the correct, there it is. Bit of a curveball with this one, but we're back to Irish music. It's, not that one, Say It by NewDad. So, NewDad is an Irish act who I've been into for a couple of years now. They really took off with a very shoegazy sound over the last couple of years. And while I like them, I've always preferred when they went for more of an always type of sound, leaned on more of their pop influences, and really made some beautiful, dreamy pop music out of it, which is exactly what this is on one of their best songs to date. Say It is the kind of complicated song where you don't want to tell someone how you feel about them because you know that they're probably not going to say it back to you. And there's a part of you that just can't deal with that rejection and can't deal with that emotional baggage. It's a very sad, very sweet song, which has a kind of teenage twee innocence to it that, again, not for everyone, but for me at least, it's the kind of thing that I just eat up. It's just so sweet and wholesome. Once again, this is a band that really deserves so much more praise. They've got some great projects under their belt. If you're more of a fan of their shoegazy stuff, there's plenty of that, and I highly recommend it. But for me, this is the real good stuff. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Whoop. Okay, perfect. This is going great. Let me know what you guys think of the. Let me know what you guys think of my title cards, or whatever they're called, album cards. I don't know. Either way, let's continue with another staple, which I've not misplaced. Where are you? Do. There you go. See, this is what happens when you sort of half-ass an idea. With that being said, we're finally there, guys. Keeping with the Irish theme at number 46, we're on to Skinty Fia with Roman Holiday by Fontaines DC. Now that I look at this, is this backwards? It might be backwards. Oh well, you get the idea. Fontaines DC, probably one of the most famous musical acts coming out of Ireland right now, and it's for very good reason. They're a band that has an incredibly good reputation among most critics. Even despite some people calling them a bit of a throwback act, they are the de facto punk, post-punk band for me at the moment, across any, basically across any nationality. And there's a good reason why so many people have shouted their praises over the last few years. Now, this album is amazing. I really adore it, but it was really hard to narrow it down to just 3 songs that I loved off it, and this just had to take it. A beautiful, cavernous song with echoing guitars in the background. A really subtle percussion section on this one, but which actually gives the song a lot of driving momentum, where the vocals almost seem to echo ethereally, like you're in a dream. And lyrically, it's, like a lot of the album, a song about trying to cope with the fact that you've been oppressed for most of your life, looking up at your overlords and smiling and nodding along, even showing fealty when it suits them, and yet deep down there's a part of yourself that's just disgusted with yourself. There's an anger that simmers under the surface of this song that I really can't get enough of, and the song sounds so beautiful. It's the kind of post-punk that I don't see get made often enough these days, and I really do think that a lot of people slept on this album compared to A Hero's Death. If you haven't checked out the album or this song, definitely do. This is an act you will not want to. Okay, and we're back. This is an act you're not going to want to miss as they take off into the stratosphere over the next few years. Wow. Right. Perfect. Again, doing so well. But anyway, here we go. Let's keep up the momentum. I think I've got a good pace here, and maybe, unlike last year, it's not going to take 2 hours to get through all this. Number 45. Bit of a curveball, but if you checked out my albums list, this should not surprise you. Number 45 is Identity Crisis by Matt Simons. This is an album that I'm pretty sure most of you have not heard. It's a pop album that flew under the radar for a lot of people. I myself came across it kind of accidentally. And the best way I can describe it is it's kind of like the epitome of modern pop if it were written by people like Ed Sheeran and Robert Grace, where the existentialism and the good songwriting are cranked up to 11, but then it remains very consistent across its entire runtime, which is what makes it, in my opinion, one of the best albums of the year. And this song is the easy highlight for me. The title track and the first track on the album, which is all about wallowing in a fucking identity crisis, losing your mind and not being able to find a sense of self after presumably a breakup, but at the very least some sort of traumatic event that you're still recovering from. I really do love this song, and while, once again, it was in competition with some of the others on the album as to which one would actually make this list, for me, the title track is the one that got me hooked on the album in the first place. It's the one that caught my attention, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the one that deserves to be remembered the most. Woo! Perfect. Brilliant. Let's keep this up. Number 44. This is once again an act a lot of people won't have heard of, but it is another Irish act, and I am always going to support more of that. In this case, it's Body by Soulé. So, Soulé is an interesting artist. She's essentially a pop artist who sort of calls back to, let's say, the early 2000s version of Destiny's Child, mixed with a lot of modern pop glam that you might see from artists like, say, Janelle Monáe. It's really, really beautiful music, and tends to be incredibly catchy. But while last year Queenish felt a little bit like too much of a throwback, to me, Body was just leaps and bounds ahead of it. A huge improvement across the board from an act I already liked and respected. It's a song very much like the biggest hit song of this year in Ireland, which I will not be mentioning by name because I fucking detest it. But it's a similar scenario where you find yourself dancing in the club with someone who makes you feel good about yourself, even though there is a part of you that almost feels insecure about that. And this is a song about letting go of that insecurity, admitting that this guy or girl makes her feel amazing and she just wants to give in to that good feeling and let herself finally feel good about herself. Pair onto that the fact that the song is progressive R&B / pop in the same vein as, say, Janelle Monáe has been doing over the last couple of years. And you have a song that just easily appealed to me on first listen and kept me coming back throughout the year. Once again, not a name that a lot of you are going to recognize, but if you're looking for some amazingly catchy dance floor pop, again, this is one that got way too overlooked and one of our best exports from Ireland at the moment, for sure. Woo! Right. Excellent. Let's get back to one that is maybe a bit more familiar to some of you, since, we've gone for a lot of the deep cuts. So let's get back to one that a lot of critics have highlighted so far. It is Johnny P's Caddy by Benny the Butcher and J. Cole. I was probably more surprised than anyone else that J. Cole and 21 Savage and Morey made my list last year with the fantastic My Life. But I didn't expect J. Cole to do it again this year. But yeah, the moment that I heard this song, J. Cole's verse, first of all, was easily one of the best guest verses that we got all year. That lion, iron, dying whole scheme is incredible. And the way that he still manages to do that while putting some content into it, calling out all the people that are faking it and aren't nearly as legitimate as he is. It's so incredibly... There's something so incredibly cool about it, which I wouldn't expect from him to fit this well on a Griselda track, but he fucking nails the atmosphere, and especially from a Benny the Butcher song, where Benny is just, once again, just bragging about just how amazing he is, how far he's come, how hard he's worked, which is something that a lot of the Griselda guys make sure to highlight, which I really appreciate about their content. And yeah, this is just gangster rap at its finest, with incredible sampling, a wonderful hook, and two MCs that are just so confident that you can't help but buy into it. It's a phenomenal song, one of the best rap songs of the year, and I'm certainly not the first person to have highlighted that. Wonderful. Next up, we have my most listened to song of the year, according to YouTube Music, and that would be Be By Your Side by Pillow Queens. Once again, little bit of a rock song. Okay, we good? You recovered? Okay, we're back. Yeah, my stream's being a bit weird right now, but not to worry. Pillow Queens, definitely one of our best exports once again at the moment. An Irish Dublin-based band who've actually been making waves for a couple of years. Pillow Queens is a name that is known. They had a fantastic album a couple of years ago called In Waiting, which a lot of critics adored and I thought was really good, but I felt they could do better. And then with this album, and particularly this song, they proved it. The song is all about learning to live and cope with your insecurities as a part of who you are, which may sound a bit weird because it kind of is, but it's this wonderfully euphoric, anthemic song about accepting your flaws, warts and all, and realizing that you are worth loving, even if not, even if you're not entirely perfect. There is so much joy and catharsis that I get from this song, where it very much feels like a conversation between you and your own insecurities and learning to cohabitate and work and live together. Once again, this is a song that absolutely charmed me from first listen, and throughout the year, it became my most listened to song of the year. And once again, some people may argue that because it's my most listened to song of the year, it should be higher. But not only do I think that Pillow Queens has a better song, which we'll talk about a bit later, but also it's my list. I do what I want. And this song, phenomenal as it is, not quite the best of the year, but still amazing. Check it out if you haven't. Excellent. Sometimes when I do this, I forget that I'm live and I realize that I've said excellent 15 times on a live stream. Yeah, there's a reason I don't think that I'm cut out to do this full time. Anyway, let's see, what's next? This is a big one. I believe I'm on 41. 41? I think it's 41. Yeah, let's say it's 41. This is another big one, and one that does have a bit of a story behind it. Number 41 is Sidelines by Phoebe Bridgers. Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think that one of my biggest mistakes back in 2020 was not giving Punisher a full and fair listen, because Phoebe Bridgers is just an incredible songwriter, an emotive performer with a beautiful voice, and that song is some of the most anthemic, or that album is some of the most anthemic and heart-wrenching songs of the entire year. And this year, I was lucky enough to see her live and see the effect that album had on so many of her fans, which basically forced me or encouraged me to go back and re-listen to Punisher and some of her older works. And while I wouldn't quite say this is her absolute best, it is among them. It is a beautiful song where Phoebe just finds herself watching the world pass by, not really being able to do anything about all the ways it pisses her off and makes her feel sad. The entire thing could be collapsing like a plane crashing, and yet she knows there's only so much that she can do, staring from the sidelines, not being able to take any action to make it better. It's a desperately sad song, and one that I definitely felt, especially in summer of this year. And watching her perform this live just made it resonate all the more. If you missed this deep cut somehow, I don't know if it's actually going to make an album in the future, so do yourselves a favor. Put this on and just feel some shit. Wonderful. Oh, that song gets me. But from there, we have more feels with number 40. It's the Ballad of the Retired Man by Ian Noe. I mean, I said on my best albums list, this guy is arguably one of the best storytellers currently working in country music. And this is just another song that proves that wholeheartedly. It's a song from the perspective of a man who has spent his entire life working towards retirement. He works, he's put in the effort, he gets there, and it's profoundly underwhelming as he suddenly realizes that he worked all his life, and yet his work was the only thing that gave his life purpose. And without it, he doesn't really have anything. It's so sad where he just spends the last few months of his life coasting, not really sure what to do in the last few years, and eventually he ends up on his deathbed, surrounded by his family, terrified of the afterlife. It's a song about how retirement is really not all it's cracked up to be, as it kind of marks the last chapter of your life, and either you should plan for it a little better, where you're actually going to live in those final years, or you should get busy living right now while you still can. Once again, this song is incredibly sad. Ian Noe is just a phenomenal storyteller with an amazing voice. The production is sparse and doesn't take over the lyrics in any way. It's just a gorgeous song, and it makes me feel things so much every time it plays. Once again, an album that flew under the radar for far too many people, and I know that the comparisons to his last album are way too easy, but give this a chance. It's really worth it. Okay, man, I think that might be the first country song on this list so far. Oh no, of course, there was the first one, Come On Baby Cry. The first indie country. I don't really count Orville Peck as indie country. He's kind of transcended that. at this point. Anyway, rambling, moving on. Number... Ooh, yay, this is a fun one. Number 39. It's Baby I Had an Abortion by the Petrol Girls. Yeah, so this album and song are righteously pissed and furious. Riot Girl hardcore act that came out at just the right time, blunt as fuck, exactly, to essentially tell their spouses or partners, or really anyone who would judge them, that, yeah, they had an abortion. And what are you going to do about it? It's a song that is very confrontational and at first can kind of throw you off until you realize that the fury at it is less directed at you, the partner, and more at anybody who would scream shame at them for exercising their right at an abortion in the first place, with phenomenal and incredibly poignant lines like, whose life are you pro? Because again, there's two lives at stake here. Not to mention the blessed is the fetus, but goddamn the children in existence, which is very true. A lot of abortions, that occur are because of teenage pregnancies that, again, those are still kids that are having kids. It's really fucked up. Anyway, my political stance on this is very clear. I fully support their message here, and honestly, I think that a lot of the stuff that was done in the US, especially around summer of this year, was absolutely abhorrent, and this album and song came out at just the right time to fuel that anger. If you're in the mood for something pissed off, riotous, and in your face, I cannot recommend this album or this song highly enough. Right then, let's go to something a little lighter, shall we? Something that we can all just dance and smile and have fun to. So, yeah, let's bring pop into this with everything's I Want a Love Like This. I cannot sing this album's praises highly enough. An entire album which was essentially written in first draft by an AI and then sorted into other lyrics and melodies by the band members. It's an incredibly fun and kooky album with a ton of weird lines. I mean, this song starts out with, "Why don't you listen to your mama, she's old?" It's just ridiculous. But they pair it with one of the best hooks of the year. There's so much personality and energy that comes through on every hook on this album, and for me, this was one of the best ones. It is one of the few songs on this album, or many songs on this album, that I think is about searching for love in technology, and feels very horny in that regard, which, again, this is a kooky album, and I kind of love that about it. But yeah, you will not hear better pop music than you get from Everything this year. And this song in particular is easily one of the most accessible songs of the year. I know a lot of people are probably going to highlight kookier cuts like Jennifer, which was amazing. But for me, there was something about the sheer gut punch of those first couple of lines, followed by the phenomenal melody across the entire song, that instantly won me over on this. If you haven't checked out the album or this song in particular, then definitely fix that. It's amazingly fun. Woo! Okay, also, I don't know if I've been keeping count, but that was number 38. So now, let's move on to number 37. We are flying through these. Also, if you hear cats in the background, they're just curious. They're fine. Hey guys. Hello. Anyway, moving back on to this. Let's talk about number 37. Yep, 37. And it's a band that a lot of people liked, and then a lot of people for some reason didn't like. It is Wet Dream by Wet Leg. I fucking love this album. I know a lot of people loved the singles, and then once the album came out, they were really underwhelmed by it. I don't get that. I think this album is absolutely amazing, and I think most, if not every song on the album absolutely kicks ass. But if I had to highlight the absolute favorite, yes, it would be this, one of the lead-off singles. Wet Dream is basically everything I love about Wet Leg, but condensed into one song. A very irreverent hook all about touching yourself, masturbating, being in your wet dream, and essentially giving you permission to essentially giving you permission to get horny off of them, but they will still stare at you judgmentally. It's just so peculiar and odd, and with the phenomenal guitars, the weird vocal delivery that just puts a smile on my face every time, and the way that it feels like it's subtly critical of certain fantasies that we tend to project onto celebrities or just everyday women on a day-to-day basis. It's the kind of song that just instantly grabbed my attention from the beginning, with weird vocal quirks, some backing vocals that come in now and again that shouldn't work but do, and a bridge and kick-ass hook that I absolutely adored. Once again, one of the best albums of the year for me, even if a lot of people apparently disagree. Excellent. Right. Perfect. Oh, wonderful. Okay. From there, we're going to go back to pop music and back to Irish music in one fell swoop. Although this is more like a fusion between pop and country, but whatever. We're talking about it. It is CMAT with Lonely. So, spoilers, this is not the only CMAT song you will see on this list. In fact, this was one of the albums which had the most contenders for this list. And also, while you could argue the very best song on the album is I Don't Really Care For You, it made my top 50 last year, so putting it on this top 50 would feel a bit disingenuous. So regardless, minus I Don't Really Care For You, this is one of the top 3 songs on the album. Spoilers. And yeah, Lonely is absolutely amazing. The type of song where CMAT reflects on the fact that despite the fact that she has fame, fortune, and bucket loads of talent, she doesn't have any friends, and she doesn't have anyone she can really rely on. It's a very sad song in many ways, but it's still delivered as CMAT, which means it's ridiculously catchy with one of the best hooks of the year. CMAT's voice is incredibly unique and not for everyone, so I'm told, but once you buy into it, there is nothing quite like it. Much like much like the frontman of Everything Everything, there's just so much personality behind every single word, and she really makes you feel for her, as the backing vocals seem to echo almost mockingly, tauntingly, every single time she talks about how she's lonely, she feels like she uses people, and she doesn't know how to get close to people, because what if they're just with her because they want to ride her coattails? It's a song that has been done very wrong in the past, but for me, CMAT is the kind of artist that can very rarely do any wrong. If you haven't checked out this album, this fucking thing, it is one of the best pop albums of the entire year, no matter where you're from. For me, it's my favorite Irish album of the year. Again, check out my best albums if you want to know more, but this is an absolute gem off of one of the best projects of the year. Check CMAT out. She really deserves it. Okay. And right from there, we go to an act that a lot of you are a lot more familiar with, and it's actually on the back of this. Woo! I planned this so well. It's the 1975. Yes, it is Oh Caroline by the 1975. Yeah, I will say for the record that Being Funny in a Foreign Language was this close to making my list of the best albums of the year. I know it's a throwback. I know it's a return to their previous roots. And the only reason that it's not on my best albums list is because it kind of does everything that I Like It When You Sleep does, but just a little worse. For me, that album just experimented more and did it better. But still, this album is still great, and there were multiple cuts that could have made it. But for me, this song just grabbed me from the start for a soaring hook that just grabbed my heartstrings and pulled to no avail. It's a song where he returns to an old flame that he can't forget or move on from. and swears to her that he wants to do better. He knows he's a fuck up. He knows that he's probably going to mess it up all over again, but he just wants her to give him one more chance. It's one of the more straightforward songs on the album, but there's something about Matt Healy's voice as he belts that hook, or the way the guitars and the keyboard synths just come up behind him as he says it, that just makes it feel so romantic. You want to take him back, even though you know he's probably going to disappoint you again. And he knows it too. What can I say? It's the kind of love ballad that shoots for the stars, probably is going to whiff, and yet at the same time you can't help but smile at its charm. For me, it's the easy highlight off of being funny in a foreign language. And yeah, it's proof that the 1975 actually can continue to make good music as long as they focus on their strengths. Ah, wonderful. And speaking of focusing on your strengths, number 34. Yes, it's Lupe Fiasco time with Miss Mural. I mean, look, for many people, this was the return to form that they've been waiting for from Lupe for years now. It's an album that he apparently made over the course of 72 hours, which is incredible in its own right. I can't believe that he put together an entire project like this in that short of a time span. And yes, I do think the album is a bit rushed in places, and you can tell that it was, done in a very short period of time. But with that being said, the best songs on the album are amazing. The themes are actually remarkably consistent. And for me, this is one of the times where it coalesced the most and created one of Lupe's best songs in years. I will say, whenever I hear that he's made an addition to the MURAL saga, I can't help but compare it to the original. And if we're being honest, no, it's not as good as the original. But with this and MURAL Jr. before it, it seems like he just can't miss. Whenever he makes a song like this, I go in ready to be critical, and yet it turns out to be one of the best songs of the entire year. In this case, it's a song that is very critical of artistic exploitation, and specifically the way that art will be placed on a pedestal more as a status symbol for, say, critics like me than anything else. Praising it not because they actually enjoy it, but because it just looks so good up there on their mantle. And in this particular song, the artist gets his revenge by eventually putting the critic on the pedestal and setting him on fire. Part of me is a little worried if I ever bump into Lupe Fiasco now that I may piss him off. But again, the symbolism, the incredible wordplay, and the way that he engages you with every single line, together with some absolutely phenomenal instrumentation. It's a song that is quite short for a MURAL song, around the 5-minute mark, which for Lupe, trust me, is short. And yeah, it just makes phenomenal use of its time and creates one of the best rap songs of the entire year, to nobody's surprise, if we're being honest. Right. Oh yeah. And from there, we transition to, we go from high critique in rap music that's a little bit heady, a little bit above some of your brainwaves, you might not be able to keep up, to a really cute little love song by an Irish band. It's Follow You by Modern Love. I mean, between this and the Zen Arcade last year, I'm getting the feeling that Irish rock bands are going to start making some of the most cutesy and yet endlessly endearing love songs of every single year. And Follow You is just, it's a song that really shouldn't be on a list like this. It's incredibly simple in some ways. It's a guitar-driven rock song that is smiley and cutesy, where you're falling for someone for the first time. And yet it's also a little bit risque in ways. Despite the bright-eyed innocence of the track and our protagonist, the girl in question still wants to take him back to her room so they can fuck. It's just a beautiful little song that has so much optimism and bright-eyed wonder that he is actually feeling this burning in his chest for someone, finding someone who he actually feels about in this way after so long. It's a gorgeous little song that I absolutely love. And even though when I first heard it, I thought, oh, that's cute, but not, top 50 of the year material, it just kept pulling me back again and again with one of the best choruses of the year. If you listen to this song and especially watch the music video and you can't smile at just how endearing it is, well, I mean, let's just hope that your heart grows a few sizes next Christmas. But either way, I love this song. Woo! Okay. So, going from there to the next one, which right off the bat, I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're nearly at the halfway point. By the way, at the halfway point, I will take a bit of a break to read through the live chat and answer any questions you might have. So, I'll give you some time to recover in between the two. All right? But that being said, let's not slow down now. Number 32 is, it's Def Havana with the song Help. So Def Havana's album from this year was kind of harrowing. For me, at least, it is their most honest, their most compromised, and their most uncomfortable album to date. But at the same time, it is also their best. Everything about it feels vulnerable and like the band is fucked up in many ways, losing half their members due to infighting and having to drag together whatever's left of the band in order to make an album that can't help but wear its emotions on its sleeve. And through doing so, made one of the best songs that this band has ever made. A literal cry for help. I mean, it's literally called Help. That manages to show its vulnerability and then scream for help because the protagonist just doesn't want to go out on his own. He wants to have people around him when he inevitably reaches his end. It's a really, really terrifying song in some ways, but there is just a wonderful energy to it where even the oh-oh-ohs in the hook don't feel overdone. It's a song that really does go for some modern rock cliches that shouldn't work, but the crescendo and the earnestness behind our protagonist's voice just sells it for me, and it made for one of the best songs off of the album. Def Havana, you really did catch my attention this year, and I'm definitely going to keep following your careers wherever they may go next. We'll see if you guys even stay together, but at least for me, your cry for help was heard, and I am listening. All right. Well, that was heavy. Let's go back to something a little more familiar, shall we? Or not familiar. Familiar to some of you. I haven't talked about this band in a while. I know at least one of you on this stream is going to be happy about this, though. Because number 31 is The Wicked Rule the Night by Avantasia. So I have been a fan of Avantasia since about 2016. I still stand by that Mark from Spectrum Pulse only reviewed this album because I pestered him about it multiple times. I doubt he remembers that. But either way, I remember listening to this album at the beginning of 2016 and absolutely falling in love for it and wanting everybody to know. And now a bigger music critic has sort of made it the staple of his channel, but it's fine. I love Mark, so it's, I'm just glad the band is getting more exposure. I'm rambling. Point is, this song is fucking awesome. It's a song where all the creepy crawlies, all the boogeymen, all the shadows under your bed are hiding away, but they're still there. They're still coming for you. All your nightmares and all your fears are going to manifest and come for you in the night to pull you away from the safety of your civilian life. It's a song that's just so over the top. It shoots for the fucking rafters, and yet it works so well with one of the most crunching choruses of the year. Every time they yell, fire, my blood just rushes. The way the breakneck drums are going at an absolutely amazing pace, the way the guitars roar out, how absolutely phenomenal Tobias Sammet sounds on this. There is just nothing quite like it. And Ralf Scheepers does an amazing job as well. The two play off each other phenomenally. It's one of the songs that starts off the album, and it just puts you in the mood for the entire thing so quickly. For me, the album isn't perfect, and Avantasia has made better songs. I personally think that Alchemy is an underrated gem, but this song still gives me that rushing feeling that very few metal acts can do for me consistently. But Avantasia, they always have at least one that just hits me right there. Fucking amazing song. Oh boy. Well, that was fun. Oh, right. We're at the number 30 mark, so don't worry. We're almost at the point where all of you can go away and ignore me and, get some drinks or whatever. I definitely need some hydration. But either way, let's wrap up the Lupe Fiasco trend with the second song on this list. That's the right way up, isn't it? Yep. It's AUTOBOTO by Lupe Fiasco. I think Miss Mural makes sense for a lot of people. It's there's a reason why it's the song that probably gets talked about the most on the album. But for me, AUTOBOTO is probably one of the best fucking songs that Lupe has made in years. Certainly one of his best hooks. It's a song where he's ducking, weaving, adjusting, changing to all the challenges coming his way, and just batting back every single ball that comes into his court. It is a song that took me off guard because normally I am more in the mood for the heady raps, but something about the hook on this, the amazing hook and the way that he fills it with all these strange vocal inflections, the phenomenal flows all across it that he switches up multiple times. It's just a showcase of Lupe at the absolute top of his game, and a song that I think a lot of people overlooked. But for me, it's easily one of the best hooks that he's had in years, and that goes a long way when it comes to replayability. Once again, Drill Music in Zion is a great album, if a bit messy, but the gems on it are real fucking highlights. If you haven't checked out this album and you've been on the fence about Lupe for the last few years, this should settle any of your doubts. Woo! Right. Let's move straight on to number 29, once I find the correct piece of cardboard. There it is. Look, I praised this album to high heaven on multiple blog posts. Shouldn't surprise you. Shush. This is Free by Florence and the Machine. So, at number 29 here we have, for me at least, the best Florence and the Machine album possibly ever. And to be clear, this album is amazing because it has so many amazing songs. Again, out of all the albums that I listened to in 2022, this was the one that probably gave me the most grief when it came to this list. Like, King could have made it, Girl Against God, just a bunch of songs could have made it. But eventually, I had to narrow it down to 3. And how could I deny easily one of the most Jack Antonoff-ish songs that she's ever made? This is basically Florence's equivalent of Green Light, a song that has a phenomenal chorus, a galloping groove that just makes your blood rush and makes your spirits soar every time it comes on, and a set of lyrics that are a lot more existential than you think on first listen. On first listen, the amazing hook just grabs you. The bright synths and the small string touches with the echoing choral backing vocals just charm you into thinking this is just a gorgeous slice of 80s era pop music that's a little bit more on the operatic side. And yet, if you read the lyrics, it's a song about just feeling like life is pushing you down again and again and again. And so Florence turns to the thing that makes her feel the most free, which is dance, which is sort of the running theme on this album. In this case, the way that dance makes her feel free and liberated like nothing else does. No matter who ridicules her, no matter who calls her out for being sensitive or for, all these bullshit things that really don't matter at the end of the day. The one thing that always gives her joy, always lifts her back up, is the feeling of dancing, that rush of adrenaline that it gives her. And the production on this song more than matches that energy. Again, if you haven't heard Dance Fever, do yourselves a favor and check it out. It's one of the best albums of the year and really deserving of so much more praise than I've seen it get. And again, definitely not the last we'll be seeing of Florence on this list. Whew. Right. Okay, we're nearly at the 25 mark. We are currently on 28. Okay. Okay, this is one that, once again, a lot of you probably haven't heard, but a few more of you, I know for a fact, have, because a few of you reached out to me about it on Twitter. God, I hate... Ugh, we're not going to talk about Twitter in this. Let's talk about... Boom! Billy No Mates with Blue Bones, parentheses, Death Wish. So, fun fact, Billy No Mates has an album coming out in just under 2 weeks, actually, in case you're a fan of hers and you want to check it out. And I cannot recommend it highly enough because this woman is responsible for some of the best indie rock that you will hear. Oh, and we're back. Yep. But yeah, one of the best women working in modern rock music. She is just amazingly poignant with her writing, has some of the best hooks of the entire year, and every single time that I recommend her to anyone who is into this brand of indie rock, specifically from the perspective of slightly punky women in their 30s that talk about a lot of existential themes, they immediately connect to it. And yeah, a fan of acts like Phoebe Bridgers, you are going to absolutely love the hell out of Billy No Mates. She's incredibly talented, and this song for me became one of my most listened to songs of the year, purely for some of the best interplay between vocals and instrumentation, combined with an amazing hook, phenomenal guitar play, and a sort of dead-eyed delivery that in many ways shouldn't work, but there's something so exhausted about it that I really connected to this year. Don't know why. Either way, Blue Bones is one of the best songs that she's written in a long time, all about how death doesn't turn her on the way it's supposed to, which is kind of uplifting, right? The fact that she no longer wishes for death. I don't know. This song makes me very conflicted about her emotional state, let alone mine. But when it's this catchy and this upbeat with some of the best instrumentation of the year, I'm not about to complain. Woo. Okay, going from something that lighthearted, let's go for something equally lighthearted. Let's talk about Serpent's The Trial of Lucifer by Sadistic and No. So, I am one of the few people, I think, who put this album on my best albums of the year list because I have been trying to get into Sadistic's music for years. And very often it's the voice, or it's the production, or it's something that just didn't quite click for me. That being said, I have seen potential for years, and I was waiting for the album that would finally change it. And this was it. Bring Me Back When the World Was Cured is one of the best hip-hop albums that I have heard this decade. It is incredibly dark. Like, I'm going to put a trigger warning right here. This album is not for the faint of heart, particularly if you're going through some personal stuff in your life. It gets heavy, and it does contain some very bloody themes, but it is handled in a way that's respectful, and it's just incredible on a technical rapping and a production front. And for me, the closing track is the highlight of the album. After our protagonist, spoilers, goes into the afterlife, having taken his own life, the entire album is a struggle with his mortality. And when he finally takes his life, God and the devil look down on essentially the fear that they instilled in him and start to argue back and forth as to whose fault it is. It's a very weird song that you would only really hear from this corner of indie rap, but it's done amazingly well with amazing production, a great sample, and No and Sadistic bring up some really, really good points with No playing God and Sadistic playing the devil, as they argue back and forth as to why God does work in such mysterious ways, and it doesn't paint him in the best light, with No almost playing like the all-knowing God who feels like he's above it all, and Sadistic playing the devil who feels like he's kind of been made the butt of the joke, the scapegoat for everything wrong in the world, when in fact he's really just somebody who wanted freedom and who wanted free will. Again, maybe I just connect to this because I watched the show Lucifer this year, which is really ridiculous, but I very much enjoyed it. But there is something about this song that just works for me philosophically. From a rap perspective, it's absolutely incredible with amazing lines, and the production is atmospheric and gorgeous. If you haven't checked out this album, I don't blame you because, again, it is under the radar by every definition. But if you are in that dark mood, there is nothing quite like it, and this song bookends it perfectly. Okay, so yeah, that was heavy. Let's wrap up the first half of this list with a slightly more familiar tone for a lot of you, and one that, even despite its familiarity, you're probably still not expecting to be on this list. But it's here. Yep, it's Buddy's Rendezvous by Father John Misty at number 26. So I know a lot of people didn't like Chloe and the last 20th century, the next 20th century. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the album. The album is a bit underwhelming, admittedly. It is an album that, when I first heard it, I immediately realized it was not going to be the in-depth character analysis that his last three albums were. And a lot of people, in many ways, would be right. It is a bit more lighthearted. It is an album that focuses a bit more on, that steeped a little bit more in its influences, sort of the old school Hollywood film feel. And I know that a lot of people were disappointed by that. But that being said, it's usually done so well, with only one or two times where I think the production really lets it down, that I can't help but really enjoy it. Sure, there are some failed experiments on the album, but when this album hits, it reaches levels of beauty that that only Father John Misty's best works have. And for me, that's Buddy's Rendezvous. It's a song that is contemplative, slightly sympathetic towards this woman who has isolated herself from everyone around her, while also simultaneously giving herself to everyone, not realizing that splitting yourself across everyone equally is ultimately just going to leave you wanting and alone. And it's delivered with the kind of soft-eyed, slightly sad delivery that Father John Misty brings to his very best ballads, with easily the best instrumentation on the entire album. The song is just beautiful and kept bringing me back time and time again, even despite the fact that the album was admittedly a bit of a disappointment, even despite the fact that a lot of critics panned the album repeatedly. Most people could agree that this was an easy highlight. And while, yeah, I know there's a Lana Del Rey cover that I don't think is nearly as good, the influences there, considering this was apparently based on Lana Del Rey's work, are pretty clear, and yet it's, for me at least, the best thing to come out of Lana Del Rey's discography, even indirectly, for years now. Maybe Norman fucking Rockwell. Maybe I'll give you that. But either way, I don't care that nobody else is going to put this on their list. This is one of my favorite songs of the year. And with that, we have reached the halfway point. Thank you so much, and we will resume in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I will have the chat open. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them my way. I say we'll start up again in about 5 minutes. But this is just for everyone who needs a bathroom break or whatever. Ah, lovely. I love that most of this is just Smooth 22. Thanks, man. I appreciate the... what girl? Actually, I don't know. I don't believe we've met. But either way, I love the ongoing commentary. I love it. Oh, man. I know that a few people are probably going to duck out because I know there are some other lists that are dropping today anyway. And that's entirely fine. Don't feel like you have to be here. I'm very, very happy with the way that this has eventually turned out. Again, admittedly, the first launch was an absolute debacle, but we got back on track eventually. I'm really, really happy that I was able to get this out when I did, because this year has had its fair share of challenges. But I really wanted to talk about the best music that this year had to offer. Ooh, that's a good question, Tony Tay. No, I decided... I really liked the last one, but I decided that ultimately I hadn't heard enough really awful, terrible music in 2022 compared to 2021. So I'm not doing one this year, which is one of the reasons I also did last year was that I didn't do a best albums list. So I felt I really should fill it in with something, which is why I went for the top 10 worst songs list. But I might still consider it. Like if there's enough requests for it, then maybe I'll do a retrospective one later on in 2023. But yeah, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed putting it together. Also, yeah, I still have Buddy's Rendezvous playing in the background. I'll probably just loop that if I can. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, I know that for a lot of people they do miss, say, the video content, for example, and I fully understand that. But I do still like doing these live videos. They're chaotic and they're a little bit all over the place, clearly, and obviously I'm, making do with a smaller budget. But I think that also brings a bit of unique charm to it, or at least I like to think so. But anyway, oh man, but yeah, I mean, look, between you and me, for the people that are watching this video and who will watch it once it goes live, once the VOD goes live. I actually have considered doing video content again. It is something that I'd actually like to do at some point, but it's a balance between certain things that need to be going right in my personal life, as well as honestly motivation. Like, you could have the motivation to film something, but then the prospect of, editing the whole thing together or asking someone else to edit it can be very daunting, especially when you have a lot going on in your personal life, which yeah, it's been a busy year, but again, I'm not putting it off the table altogether. And maybe, who knows, maybe in the new year there might be some projects that I'm working on that will see the light of day. But either way, I'm really, really happy with the fact that even despite the fact that I've been away for most of the year, people did still tune in to my year-end lists and to this. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone who's watching this, whether you're someone who knows me personally or someone who's just been watching my content for years. I really, really appreciate you. And yeah, hopefully we can end this year with a bang. And with that, yeah, let's dive into part 2 of this list, shall we? Okay, part 2, here we go. Don't worry, if you're a bit late coming back to this, don't worry. I will be I will be uploading the full VOD for this afterwards. Ooh, okay. This is actually an important one. Let me just get rid of the ones I'm not going to be talking about anymore. Cool. There we are. Right. Let's do this. Number 25. You didn't see that? Well, yeah, okay. It's CMAT again with Every Bottle, parentheses, is my boyfriend. Yeah, this is just fucking fun. It's a more country-leaning song, one of the more country-leaning songs on the album that still doesn't sacrifice some amazing pop roots with a ton of really fun instrumentation that sounds both retro and modern. Again, this woman can do no wrong. It builds to one of the best choruses of the year, where she finds herself at a bar drinking her sorrows away, and essentially, counting all the relationships that she's fucked up, with every single bottle that she finds herself at the bottom of being a metaphor for a boyfriend that didn't work out or some sort of relationship that didn't go anywhere. It's absolutely, it should be absolutely heartbreaking, but there's something so uplifting about it, where she plays it almost like a celebration of all the past relationships she's had, even if they didn't work out, and knowing that there's always going to be more down the line. There's always more fish in the sea, and she just has to stay headstrong and keep believing. I absolutely love this song, and the way that she delivers it. It's the type of pop music, or pop country in this case, I guess, that feels like it's existed forever. And that's going to be a running theme for a few of the songs later on this list. I really appreciate it when artists can make music sound that timeless. Fucking love this album, and this song is an utter gem. Right then. Going from there, we have, well, okay, let's get this over with. Number 24 is going to be my most controversial pick on this list, but I don't give a fuck. Did I convince you? Here we go. From Viva Las Vengeance, it's Panic at the Disco's Middle of a Breakup. I do and I don't get the hate for this album. On the one hand, I understand that a lot of people have problems with the fact that it's more retro-leaning, the fact that the production is a bit ear-bleeding at times, and that Brendon Urie's ego is through the fucking roof. But that's been Brendon Urie's last few albums. And yeah, I'm saying Brendon Urie because, let's be honest, Panic at the Disco is literally just him now. And no, Don't Let the Light Go Out is overrated as fuck as far as I'm concerned. This right here was the highlight. I just knocked a bunch of cardboard on the floor and I don't give a fuck. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this album, despite its flaws, is just an incredibly fun ego trip and easily the best collection of hooks that Brendon Urie has put together in years. I fully understand that for a lot of people, this album does not hit. That for a lot of people, the hooks are just a bit too ear-piercing. But again, that's been Panic's sound for the last decade, pretty much. And nobody's really complained that much up until maybe Pray for the Wicked and this album. For me, at least, it's a huge step up from Pray for the Wicked or even the Death of a Bachelor, because as far as I'm concerned, they finally got back to a solid pop core. Yes, it's a pop core that borrows from older acts like Queen, but Brendon Urie can still deliver it really well. He still has an amazing voice. And enough about the album. Let's talk about this song, which is a song about hate sex, essentially. A song where they're breaking up and yet they're just having wild sex in order to maybe keep it together. It's the kind of song that is a last-ditch effort to parse together anything of worth from something that is clearly on its last legs, which for me at least is kind of like a metaphor for the entire album. And I kind of appreciate the desperation, the horny ego behind the entire thing, with the thundering guitars, the percussion that is way better than it has any right to be, and one of the best hooks that Brendon Urie's had in years. Seriously, if you had told me that this came out in the 2000s, I might actually believe you. I genuinely think that this song is way too overhated, and this album in general is not nearly as bad as everyone seems to think. But again, that's just my bad take of the year, and if you disagree, make your own list. But in all seriousness, I do love this song. Well done, Brendon Urie. I might be the only one to say that this year. Woo! Well, that was fun. Okay, fine. Let's get to something that I would say is less divisive, but I feel like a lot of people hate this one too. I don't care. Number 23. It's Mastermind by Taylor Swift. Midnights is actually a mess, at least in my opinion. I heard somebody say at one point that if you don't get what Reputation was trying to do, you're not going to get Midnights. And I actually think that's true from a production perspective, because similarly to that album, the production on this is a hot mess, alternating between being actually quite good and an absolute mess. But for me, at least, this is one of the songs that nails it. And for me, it's the best song on the album. Antihero might have had a chance if it weren't for that sexy baby line that I'm sorry, I can't get over. But this song, for me, is the one that realizes its arc the best from start to finish. A song where she has spent her entire life manipulating people into relationships with her, and that most people, when they realize just how smart and manipulative that she is, it scares them off and they run the other way, which she totally gets. Much like the rest of the album, she realizes that she is in the wrong here. She is the bad guy. She's fully accepting that responsibility. But what's so magical about this relationship with her current boyfriend is that he fully recognizes that. When she eventually tells him that everything about their first meeting was manufactured, he just laughs and says, yeah, Duh, I knew. I saw right through you, and yet I stayed with you anyway because I like you. Much like she said on one of her past songs, Delicate, he likes her for her. It's the kind of love song that she normally closes these albums out with, but this one hits so much more because she shows all of her worst flaws much more plainly than she has on other songs, and yet, even despite that, he still loves her. It's not something that she feels, you should aspire to. She definitely isn't a role model, but she can't help but feel warm and fuzzy that there is someone who loves her despite all of her manipulation and all of her flaws. Again, not exactly the healthiest song, but there is something just so sweet about it that made me love it, especially with the poignant lines about how she feels like she has to be this manipulative and be this many steps ahead of her opponents because ultimately she feels like if she isn't, she's going to let her guard down and ultimately get hurt. There's a lot going on in this song. It's very emotional, and yet paired with some of the best storytelling that Taylor Swift has displayed in years, it made for the best song on the album by a mile. As somebody who absolutely adores folklore and still loves Evermore to this day, this is the only song on the album, aside from maybe Snow on the Beach, that reached anywhere near the heights of those albums. And I love it for that. Right then. Okay. I don't think the next one is on the floor. Again, I knocked a lot of stuff on the floor, but hopefully we should still get through this. Okay, let's go to something less controversial now. Number 22. It's the Only Heartbreaker by Mitski. If you saw my live stream for the top 50 songs of 2021, you know that I opened it up with a different song from the album, Laurel Hell, and said, yeah, you should all go check it out. And turns out I didn't need to do that because apparently a lot of people are huge fans of Mitski, and when she dropped a new album this year, people lost their fucking minds. And to me at least, the few people that said that Laurel Hell was a bit of a step down from her last album, I get it. As a whole, it doesn't work quite as well or quite as solidly, but the individual songs are amazing. And while a few songs actually had a chance at this, Stay Soft was one of them, this is the song that just kept me coming back again and again. It's a song where Mitski realizes that she is in a relationship where she is no longer in love. She wants to leave, and yet she can't find a good excuse for it. She's desperately waiting for this person that she's with to fuck up, to do something that will justify her leaving them. And yet, at the end of the day, they're just so sweet, so supportive, that she knows that ultimately she's going to be the one to break their heart. And there is something that is both very sad and kind of genuine about that. It kind of reminds me, this is a weird comparison considering how much I hate this song, but it kind of reminds me of Unfaithful by Rihanna, where the guy in question clearly hasn't done anything wrong, and yet she still wants to find any excuse to paint him in a bad light. And yet in this case, Mitski realizes that she is deluded and that ultimately she is going to have to make the hard choice and leave him. I absolutely love this song, and paired with one of the best progressions of the entire album, one of the best crescendos of the entire year, with a final bridge that absolutely explodes outwards. It just fills my heart with so much warmth every time it plays. One of the best hooks of the year, by far, and proof that Mitski can more than handle synth pop when given the right tools. Perfect. Right. And right from there, let's go back to some familiar territory. Once I find wherever I put the album cover. Is this one of the ones I knocked on the floor? It's one of the ones I knocked on the floor, excuse me. Yeah. Yes, there it is. Woo! Yeah. Oh. I'm back, I'm fine. Right, let's talk about CMAT again. The final CMAT song on this list, I swear. And it's No More Virgos. I mean, come on. If I Don't Really Care For You wasn't going to make this list, it's clear that my third song in this list was going to be this one. I gave it a glowing review last year when I reviewed it on Musical McCool towards the very end of 2021, and over the course of the year, it's only grown on me. Yes, it is a song where CMAT is out on the town with her girlfriends and swearing off Virgos forever, boys that are just little September boys that she knows she can just wrap around her finger like that and are probably going to break her heart at some point. And while she swears off them constantly, she also spends half the song trying to reason why maybe this is a cheat day. I love the humor of this song. It's a song where she fully realizes that her and her girlfriends, she and her girlfriends have made a pact that they're going to swear off of boys forever. And then once she's actually faced with a Virgo again, someone that she can just gobble and eat up, she can't resist the temptation. And the way that she goes back and forth trying to think, well, okay, I said it was a cheat day, but what if this, that, and the other? But knowing that if her girlfriends find out, they're probably going to hang her like a Liberty Bell, I believe is the word she uses. I absolutely adore this song. It's one of the more humorous on the album, which is saying something on an album that has a great sense of humor. And the production is what really makes it, with elements of dub, elements of experimental pop, beautiful bells that just sound angelic. Everything about this song from start to finish just puts a smile on my face, especially with one of the most iconic pop choruses of the year, bar none. Once again, if you have not checked out this album or this artist, please fix that. She is so worth your time. Woo! Oh, wonderful. Okay, and now let's get to someone that you probably suspected was going to be on this list somewhere. Probably not for this song, but knowing me, you knew it was probably inevitable. It's Kendrick Lamar at number 20 with Savior, featuring Baby Keem, I believe, and Sam Dew. Yeah, so I know a lot of people didn't love Mr. MURAL and the Big Steppers, and I completely understand why. It's an album that makes itself very hard to like, where Kendrick actively wants to tear up the image of this perfect savior that you've had for him up until now. And yeah, as you might expect from that explanation, Savior is the song where he goes all in on that idea, describing himself more as Kodak Black than anything pro-black that people may put him on a pedestal as, where every single element of the production locks into this sort of lockstep groove on after the first minute and just has an amazing rhythm to it that can't help but make you move, where Kendrick highlights all the ways in which he's not actually a savior and where his relationship with his fans has gotten a little bit toxic, as Baby Keem even asks the question, despite everything that you love him for, are you happy for him if he tells you that he's not your savior? And in fact, nobody is. In fact, burn all your effigies. Tupac is dead. He is not your savior. Everything about this song is punishing and in your face. And when I saw Kendrick perform it live this year, it just vaulted it into the stratosphere for me. The song is a perfect microcosm of the entire album as a whole, and proves once again why Kendrick is one of the smartest and most self-aware rappers in the game. You may not like the rhetoric that he's spitting on this album. It may be the kind of album that is hard for certain people to swallow, but when he does it this well, I'm not about to turn him away. Even though I know you don't want me to accept you as my savior, and I don't, I'll reject you like you want, I'm still going to admire you when you do it this well. Oh, man. Right. That was a lot. Let me go for something more lighthearted. That's what we need, right? Some nice, lighthearted content, which is a little less thinky and existential, shall we? Where are you? There you are. Perfect. The second song from Ian Noe on this list. At number 19, It's Lonesome as It Gets. Yeah, what can I say? Ian Noe is one of the best singer-songwriters in country music. Possibly the only artist that I would currently compare to in terms of just pure storytelling to someone like Emily Scott Robinson. He is that talented. And this is only his second album. Like, even without Dave Cobb, he made an album this amazing. But I digress. For me personally, Lonesome as It Gets is the epitome of what makes the album great and what makes a lot of Ian Noe's best songs as amazing as they are. It's a storytelling track from a pretty miserable protagonist who has just been through a breakup, goes home to a house that no longer has the woman he loves and is instead filled with reminders of her, and just feels more and more lonely, wallowing as somebody who has lost his muse, has written all these songs, but now has nobody to share them with, and eventually ends up burning a Christmas tree out of self-pity just to feel something. It's an incredibly weird and surreal song with this weirdly upbeat tone to the instrumentation. But again, it's just so immediately catchy, and you can just see the downward spiraling happen in real time. The smiling through the pain where he realizes that he might die alone, that you can't help but connect to it and smile wryly. It's a it's a song that just makes me feel good, even though the protagonist is just so goddamn depressed, and yet you really do feel for him. This is a song that manages that balance between comedy and tragedy so perfectly, with one of the best hooks of the year, some of the best instrumentation of the year, and once again proves why Ian Noe is one of the best country artists currently working today. I still can't believe this guy is only 32, my god. Either way, check out this album and this song. If you're a fan of modern indie country by any stretch, this is an album you're not going to want to miss. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's get, come on. You all knew it was coming. Come on. Let's all say it together now. I mean, if it wasn't going to make this list, maybe not this song, but either way, you knew this artist was going to show up somewhere. Boom. Yes, it's JID time. And in this case, oh, that's the wrong song. There it is. That was planned. Wonderful. At number 18 on this list, it's Surround Sound by JID, 21 Savage, and Baby Tate. So, yeah, this is the best album of the year. I don't think there are many people who would disagree with that assessment. It's a phenomenal, catchy, incredibly forward-thinking album where JID takes a lot of the bare bones that formed his last few projects, which were still great albums, and then elevates them to brand new heights with brand new, incredible production, phenomenal sampling, and some of the best rapping that you will hear in really this decade. He is one of the most natural talents that we have working today. But what really surprised me on this song in particular was how well his guests kept up with him. Yes, 21 Savage's verse isn't as good, but he's still on flow, he's on beat, he has some great punchlines in there, and Baby Tate has a short part of the song, but it builds that transition to the beat switch perfectly. She just has this wonderful whispery tone to her voice that is instantly appealing. And yeah, between the incredible sample that leads into one of the best hooks that I have heard in a hip-hop song in years, and pair that with some of the best flows that you will hear all year, one of the best beat switches you will hear all year that leads to more incredible flows, multiple on one song. I mean, honestly, I could rave about this song again, for fucking hours if I could. I mean, even I'm a modern anomaly, I turn into a rapper ironically, like that whole scheme towards the second half, that on its own justifies its placing this high on this list. Definitely one of the best albums of the year, and if you've been listening to hip-hop, modern hip-hop, and for some reason this album has slipped under the radar for you, I can't imagine how, considering how many critics have praised it to high heaven, but if you haven't heard it, this thing is a gem. My album of the year, and one of the best songs on it. Easily. Oh, goody. Brilliant. And from there, let's transition back to, you know what? I'm feeling, I think I want to go back to the other act. What was it? That act that I talked about earlier. They're here somewhere. Wait, is this it? Yes. I am a consummate professional, and yes, it's everything again with Kevin's Car. I know that this is a weird pick for this album. This is my second favorite album of the year, for those of you who missed that. And this is just pop perfection. A song that is once again a love song to a robot, as far as I can tell, because yes, Kevin is the AI that they named, the name of the AI that wrote most of this album. And yeah, this song is just incredible. It's bright, it's glittering, the chords just glimmer with this beauty that is so hard to put into words. There's just something so effortlessly gorgeous about this song, and every single time it plays, it just puts a smile on my face. I love Kevin's Car. It's one of the best songs that Everything has ever made, and it just has this cute, loving, just adorable feel to it that I can't get enough of. So yeah, once again, another reason to check out this amazing album. Do yourselves a favor and check out Raw Data Feel. It is some of the best pop music you will hear this year or last year. I mean, whatever. You get what I mean. Either way, fucking adore this song. Woo! Okay. Right. Well, that's that taken care of. Who's my next victim? Ah, here he is. Next up, let's feel some things together, shall we? Number 16. This is number 16, Middle of a Heart by Adeem the Artist. So, I've talked about Adeem the Artist before. They are a artist who came into the spotlight last year with their phenomenal project Cast Iron Pansexual, which, as much as I do like that album, I do sometimes think its budget is a little clear, as I've said before, but the best songs on the album were absolutely transcendent, and I genuinely didn't think that they would make a song as resonant as You Should Have Been a Cowboy, and arguably they still haven't, but for me, Middle of a Heart, as simple as it is, it just fucking works. It's a song that works off of the scheme of Middle of a Heart, ending every single verse with, you know, something through the middle of a heart, which sounds simple enough, as it shows a boy who grows up on a farm, goes out hunting with his dad, learning to put a bullet through the middle of its heart, bringing venison to the table, and his mother's so proud. Then he goes to prom, gets married. Once again, he feels the love hits him like a bullet through the middle of the heart, and his mother's proud of him. Then his dad's old friend who works for the military comes around and says that he can make it if he joins the army. So he joins the army and once again puts bullets through the middle of a lot of people's hearts abroad. And once again, people are proud of him. And then he comes back, haunted by the demons of all the people he didn't even know that he killed in the line of duty, leading to his eventual suicide, where he puts a barrel to his own chest and pulls the trigger. This song, whenever it plays, I know it's coming. In fact, I think we all know it's coming just based on the first couple of lines. But Adeem's wonderful delivery and just how fucking gorgeous and catchy the song is, never losing that very somber tone, just, it kills me every time. I have not gotten through this song in full. I'm actually trying actively not to listen to it too closely now because I will cry. I mean, the fact that it ends with that final line where he just goes, "Hey mom, I'm dead now. Do you think that there's still a place for me in heaven? Because I don't think God likes suicide." Fuck me. This song is... of all the songs on the album, it's probably the most run-of-the-mill, where you could say that anyone could write it, But for me, at least, it's one of the best showcases of a D&D artist's phenomenal storytelling. How well they can frame a song like this and deliver it perfectly. It just hits me so hard, harder than almost any of the personal songs that they've put out over the years. Yeah, this is easily one of my country songs of the year. Any song that makes me cry this much deserves its spot on this list. Fuck me. Whew. Okay. I need some more fun in my life. Oh, there you are. Okay. Make me feel better again, Josh Ramsay. I mean, yeah. Number 15. It's Lady Mine by Josh Ramsay featuring Chad Kroeger. Yeah, you heard right. Chad Kroeger of Nickelback teamed up with Josh Ramsay of Marianas Trench, my favorite band, and made a hard rock song that kicks ass. I cannot put into words just how fucking rock and roll this song is. It is amazing. Josh and Chad play off each other beautifully. They deliver this kick-ass, horny, rock-heavy love song that really shouldn't work, but all the elements from the guitars, the phenomenal horns that blast in at all the best moments, the great percussion, and the fucking harmonica solo that Josh performs on the bridge, all of it just made this song an absolute joy to revisit time and time again. I tried to really put into perspective how ridiculous this song is. It is ridiculous. It's definitely not the masterpiece of songcraft that some of Josh's other songs are with the rest of his band, and yet it kicks so much ass that I can't ignore it. This is the best thing that Nickelback has probably been associated with ever, and over the course of the year it grew to be my easy favorite on an album that, once again, is very messy, but when it hits, it fucking hits. Love this song. With whiskey. Oh, love it. Okay, right. Where was I? I got a little sidetracked there. Oh, yay! I get to talk about her again. Spoilers. There you are. Get over here. Yes, it is time to once again talk about Florence and the Machine with number 14, Cassandra. So like I said, there are a lot of songs on this album that could have made this list. But of all the songs that I think Florence and the Machine has ever made, this is the first one that left me speechless on first listen. It's a song with, first of all, one of the best crescendos of the year, not the last time I'm going to say that, where she paints the portrait of Saint Cassandra, the saint who, or is she a prophet? I forget. Either way, she knew all the dangers that were going to come to the followers of God, but because she was a woman, nobody listened to her. Honestly, it makes almost too much sense that Florence would pick her as an inspiration for this album. An album all about not being taken seriously. And yeah, this album kicks fucking ass, and this song in particular just floors me. The crescendo on this, it feels epic. It feels ominous. It feels like a woman out for revenge against all the people who doubted her. It's one of the first moments of her entire career, even more so than a song like What Kind of Man, where Florence and the Machine's majesty, her powerful voice, puts me in my place, where I just feel like I'm looking up at a fucking goddess who is about to cast judgment on me, and it's epic. I know that word is overused, but my God, how else can you describe this song? The stalking pianos, the drums, the way every chorus builds and just gets bigger and bigger, the echoing choral vocals on the bridge, or that lead into the bridge, and then the murmured, throaty voice of Florence before that final hook just slams into you with all the rage and pent-up fury built up with this snarling guitar line. Oh my God, I love this song. This album has its high points, but for me, it is one of the most underrated deep cuts of Florence's career. and yet it still might not be my favorite on the album. That's how amazing this album is. But yeah, if you still haven't found any reasons to check out one of the best albums of the year and Florence and the Machine's best album to date, Cassandra is yet another argument in its favor. Okay. Once again, we might be coming back to Florence again in a bit. Ooh. But firstly, let's talk about... Oh no, where did she go? No, where are you? I know you're somewhere. I had you here a second ago. Is that it? Or is that it? Oh, yes, there you are. Sorry about that. Number 11. No, is it? Wait, no. What am I talking about? It's number 13. Ah, I picked the wrong card. Oh my god, everything's crumbling and falling apart. It's fine. Everything's fine, you guys. Where is it? I love how, I love that video where the social tune just shuffled through cards and cardboard for a good hour. That was a good video. Where is it? Is it still on the floor? Yeah. There you are. Hi. Number 13. It is Hearts and Minds by Pillow Queens. I mean, what can I say beyond that opening guitar riff? Oh, God. This is admittedly pure critic bait, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's a song from the perspective of Pillow Queens as songwriters looking for new ways to capture the hearts and minds of their audience while still staying true to their sound. It's essentially a song about trying to still make quality music while still reaching the masses without selling out. It's a struggle, and yet I don't think I've ever heard a line put it as well as I'm not fixing, what is it? I'm not fixing the rule, I'm atrophied. I don't know. Every single metaphor on this song, every line just instantly gets lodged in my head, albeit I just can't quote them very well on command. I love how immediately catchy the song is. I love the harmonies that come in on the hook. I adore the way that the two women immediately just capture your attention on first listen, where every single element feels kind of ragged in some spots, where you can really feel that life has pressed them down time and time again, but they're still going to optimistically keep going with easily one of the best hooks of the year. For me, this is an indie rock classic waiting to happen. I haven't heard a song that was an instant classic in this genre this quickly for me since probably 2018. I absolutely adore this song, and while I know a lot more people probably know Be By Your Side, this was the true highlight for me. Again, if you need an excuse to check out some amazing rock music from an Irish band of women that really deserves even more attention for this album than their last one, check out this album and this song. All the respect in the world to Pillow Queens. Right. Excellent. Kill you twice. Right. And from there, we transition to number 12. This is going to be an interesting one. Number 12 is Married in a Honky Tonk by Jenny Tolman. Okay, here's the thing about this album. In my opinion, this is the most front-loaded album of the year, by which I mean the first half is amazing, and the second half kind of sucks, which is really upsetting, because the first time I heard this album, it instantly just made me light up going, oh my god, this could be one of my favorite country albums of the year, and then the second half really lets it down, at least for me. But that aside, the title track is one of the most fun songs I've heard in country in years. It's exactly what it sounds like, where Jenny Tolman meets up with her friends, they go to the bar, they get drunk, and she accidentally hooks up with a random guy in the middle of a bar. I love how silly it's played. Every single line is incredibly cocksure and winking at the camera, but there's something just so charming about it, and Jenny delivers it so well. You can't help but just smile and have a good time along with her, even though, obviously, this is the wrong decision, and this relationship, or whatever you want to call it, is not going to last. I love how much fun this is. I love that Jenny had the idea to put it together, and I really do think that it is, without a doubt, one of the most fun country songs of the year. If you haven't checked out the album, I'd say check out the first half and then just leave it at that. But this song in particular is an absolute gem. Easily some of the best potential I've seen in a country artist in a good while. Oh boy. And on the flip side, see what I did there? Number 11, It's Softly by Arlo Parks. I mean, look, I said last year that Arlo Parks was one of my most listened to artists of 2021. Collapsed in Sunbeams was one of my most listened to albums of 2021, and it is one of my favorite albums of that year. In fact, had I made an album list last year, it likely would have made the top 10, or at least the top 15, because I really do listen to it a lot, even now. There's just something so laid back and beautiful about it. But that being said, I do think that it's an album that works better as a whole than with individual cuts, which is why none of her songs made my list last year. Well, this year she released what is undoubtedly her greatest song to date, a softly written song with easily the best hook of her career, one of the best hooks of the year, in fact, over a light piano line that just conveys the vulnerability of the lyrics so well, as she softly delivers a wish to please be broken up with gently, where she feels like her partner is about to end things with her. She struggles to find what she may have done wrong, searches for ways that she might be able to fix it, and yet just begs him to just give her another chance. Oh boy, it's a song where you can feel that after it ends, things are not going to go well for her. And she plays it so well, so vulnerably, that you can't help but feel so sorry for her too. You can tell this relationship meant so much to her, and yet no matter what she does, even though it's not really her fault, there's nothing she can do to fix it. They're just past the point of no return, and no matter what happens next, she hopes that he'll just do it to her gently. It is a song that really got to me this year for just how beautiful and vulnerable it is. And it is genuinely just one of the most beautiful songs of the year. Once again, one that flew under the radar for a lot of people. But if you're a fan of Arlo Parks, you've probably been listening to this as much as I have this year. And it's a gem. Oh, love it. Okay, and now, believe it or not, guys, we're in the top 10. That's right, we are in the 10 best songs of the entire year, without question. Nobody's going to argue with me on that. Who can possibly disagree with these top 10 picks? Yeah, there's probably going to be some contentious stuff here, I'm just warning you. But that being said, I'm excited. Let's get into it, shall we? So, let's start with number 10. Number 10, Someone/Somewhere by Def Havana featuring Idair. When I say that this album is one of the most vulnerable and one of the most nakedly hurt albums of the year, this is what I'm talking about. This is a song where our frontman finds himself at his lowest point, on his knees, praying to some entity, whether it be God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, and just praying for answers, for company, for anything, because he's reached his lowest point. He's looking for someone somewhere to lift him up, to give him a reason to keep going, even though he's deeply depressed. He doesn't see a reason to keep going. It's one of the Def Havana songs that genuinely hit me emotionally, stronger than even some of their best in the past have, purely because he's literally on his knees. He's begging for answers. He's begging for any sort of relief. And while I've criticized Def Havana in the past for relying maybe a little too heavily on some more artificial elements in the production. This is easily their most artificial piece to date, with the echoing synth that clearly weren't made by a person. And yet, much like an album like 808s and Heartbreaks, the artificial elements almost enhance the feelings of the protagonist, where it's almost like he's calling into the void of a web forum or something. And yet it's a void because nothing's going to come back. Nothing's going to help him. And Eder plays that other voice that feels out of reach somehow, ethereal, echoing and reflecting his misery, but not actually able to help with anything, as he slowly breaks down more and more, even towards the last verse, where he just feels like he's breaking to pieces and nothing's going to help him. It's a miserable song, and one that just hits me in the feels every time it plays. It's one of the most atmospheric and best delivered songs of the band's career, where they ignored all of the advice I've ever given them and made what is, in my opinion, their best song to date. Fucking adore this. Whew. That's heavy. That is heavy. And it's not going to get easier from here. A lot of you were probably wondering why I haven't talked about this act yet. Well, it's time. We're finally going to do it. Am I doing this right? There it is. Number 9. The Place Where He Inserted the Blade by Black Country New Road. So, Ants From Up Here is a great album that I have not returned to much. It's one of those cases where the album is gorgeous, it's great, I completely understand why people prefer it to their last album, but I just don't return to it as much. And most of that, in fairness, is more because of the year I had. I definitely spend most of my time listening to slightly more upbeat stuff, and whenever I was in the mood for something like this, I would just go to something like Fontaines DC. But even I couldn't deny just how instantly classic this song was. The Place Where He Inserted the Blade is a 7-minute epic ballad with multiple instrumentations across it that, once again, builds to a phenomenal crescendo, where our protagonist starts out quiet, mellow, and yet becomes more throaty and more desperate as the song goes on, as he realizes that the relationship that he's in is with a woman who, or a partner, that has been treated badly in the past, possibly due to an abusive relationship, possibly just emotionally abusive, but either way, there's something there. And he can tell that whoever this person's past partner was, he did a number on her. So he opens her up to try and share about it, to try and work on it, because communicating through her past trauma will strengthen their current relationship. But that's not how it works. And the more that he pushes, the more that she retreats inward, and he can feel that even though he's trying to help, he's losing her. It's a deeply tragic song where all the good intentions of the world can be there, but no matter how hard you try to do the right thing, you might just end up pushing away the people you love. It's a song that builds phenomenally, and the multiple instrumentals on display are amazing. It's a technical feat in and of itself, but the songwriting just makes it all the more tragic. The framing, the build-up, where he begs her to show him the place where he inserted the blade, show him how he can fix her hurt, her past wounds, and the answer is he just can't. It's a deeply tragic song, and thus very clearly one of the best of the year, and I'm certainly not the only person to think so. Well done, Black Country New Road, and I really hope that whatever form you take going forwards, you can reach these heights again. Oh boy. Okay, let's get to something a bit more upbeat, albeit still pretty existential. Number 8. Wage Wars, Get Rich, Die Handsome by the Mountain Goats. So, yeah, the Mountain Goats decided to go for a more rock-heavy approach with their newest album. Easily their most rock-heavy approach since probably the mid to late 2000s. And it made for an incredibly fun and upbeat album that on first listen just grabs you with hook after hook, with various styles of rock across it. And this is probably the best hook that John Darnielle has written in years. An incredibly anthemic fist pumping guitar jam, which clocks in at just about 2.5 minutes and yet instantly leaves an impact with a chorus that you can shout along with until you realize the subtext behind it, where even though it's anthemic, it's cool, just like those action movies that this album is based around, ultimately, you're still talking about dying handsome. It's the whole glamorization of, dying young that you see in action movies where it's like, oh yeah, he's young, he's handsome, and he's going to sacrifice himself. How noble, how wonderful. If he was an old man, his life just wouldn't matter as much. There's so much subtext to this song. It's wry commentary that slips under the radar, but it's still there, where he tells you you must be essentially untraceable, infallible, otherwise you will die rich and handsome, where your looks and your money are worth nothing, but hey, at least you'll go out with a legacy. It's fucking dark, you guys, and yet that's why I fucking love it. It's the wry commentary that is all over this album that I feel is just perfectly summed up in this one song. Fucking love it. Let's move on though, because we're nearly at the 2-hour mark. Oh boy. Number 7. Okay. Yeah, this one won't surprise you. We are back to our good buddy from the very beginning of this list. It's Orville Peck again, and this time it's with number 7, The Curse of the Blackened Eye. So, yeah, The Curse of the Blackened Eye is a song about abuse. Similarly to Show Me the Place Where You Inserted the Blade, except this protagonist is profoundly alone in his struggle dealing with past issues that he himself has gone through. It's a song about feeling the weight of having been in an abusive relationship, feeling that blackened eye still there long after it's been healed, and the real trust issues that it creates leading into your future relationships. It's a song about trauma, and it's a song about coping with trauma in all the healthy and unhealthy ways, knowing he needs to move on, knowing that he should move past it, but still feeling that shadow haunt him in the background. Honestly, the music video for this is phenomenal in displaying that. And Orville gives the performance of his career here, wistful and very melancholic, as his voice just echoes out across this expansive, almost bare bones mix in spots, where despite that, the bridge leads to this anthemic moment of closure, where he realizes that despite all that, despite the fact that he may even get hurt again, his heart is bound to get broken time and time again. That's just life. And there's a chance that he might end up in the same situation again. But after all, should he let those past terrible experiences define his happiness now? No. There's something just so cathartic about this song, where it works through the pain and the hurt and still has it towards the end, but he knows that ultimately he needs to move past it. It's a complicated song, and it's delivered with the respect that only a performer as talented and as nuanced as Orville Peck can really bring to the table, and it really struck a chord with me throughout the entire year. One more reason to check out Bronco. Make sure that you do. Right. Number 6. Okay. I called this out earlier this year as my song of the year, and it didn't quite make it. But, I mean, it's still very high on this list. And it's number 6. Jackie Down the Line by Fontaines DC. So yeah, this shouldn't surprise you, but Fontaines DC has more than one song on this list. And yeah, this is what I mean when I say they are one of the most quintessential rock bands working today. I think you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who doesn't find the drums and the stalking bass line on this immediately infectious. Also, unlike on Unlike Roman Holiday, where his vocals can kind of blend in with the instrumentation here, our frontman's accent here is on full display, and it showcases one of the main selling points of Fontaines DC. That is that they lean into their Irish influences both in their sound, but also, in this case, lyrically. This is a song about being perceived as a jackeen, which, for those of you who are not familiar, a jackeen is slang in Ireland for a Dubliner, because essentially they worship the Queen of England. So despite the fact that they were conquered by the UK at one point, Dublin still had this reputation back in the day of kind of kowtowing to their conquerors, which made the other counties around it not view it so favorably, which is where he describes himself as a Jackie down the line. What can I say about this song? The vivid imagery, the text, the history, and the weight behind all the words, the amazing chorus that immediately gets stuck in your head. Honestly, I think this is probably my most hummed song of the year, if not anything else, and it was also in my top 5 most played of the year, easily. I cannot tell you just how immediately this song grabs you, showing off not just that the band is a force to be reckoned with, but that they're only getting better. Spoilers, there might be more of them on this list, but for me at least, Jackie Down the Line is a clear showcase of what this band can do at its very best. Show this to someone who is a fan of post-punk, and I dare them not to love this. Whew. Okay. Number 5. This one is, this is one that a lot of you were probably expecting. So let's get to it, shall we? It's Jid again with Dance Now with Kenny Mason. So yeah, I was very much convinced for the majority of this year, in fact, that surround sound was going to be my favorite song off of the Forever Story. But yeah, like pretty much every other critic out there, Dance Now was one of those songs that would not leave me alone. I cannot put into words just how good this hook is. The stalking sample that underlines those bam bam ba-dam bam throughout the entire hook, throughout the entire verse, and only really goes away for the pre-chorus, and then comes back again on the hook. That on its own is one of the best hooks of the year. Pair onto that the amazing pre-chorus, or the way that Jid raps about the, or the internal rhymes that Jid fills in for the say that I can't, you can now, I'm a shoot at the ground, dance now, that whole thing. The chorus that comes in with, oh, what a handsome gift to live in the land of the sick, like everything. And then it goes back to the dance now, which is done in this growled voice that showcases another thing that Jid does incredibly well, which is slip into multiple deliveries and voices, and yet all of them work amazingly. He goes into several passages on this that might remind you of Marshall Mathers era Relapse, Relapse era Eminem. Yeah. But he makes it work so well. There's nothing about it that feels put on, and when it does, it just adds tons of personality to the song. The inflections, the production on this is amazing, and the way that Kenny Mason joins him on this is just perfect. I kind of wish he had a verse, to be honest, because Kenny Mason deserves more attention in that field. But regardless, this is one of these best songs of the year, and for me at least, the best song on the Forever Story. And yet it's not quite the best rap song of the year. So what could beat it? Well, we'll get to it. But first... Okay, last time, I promise. Yeah, it's Florence again. This time with number 4, My Love by Florence and the Machine. I mean, what can I say? The moment that I heard this song, I loved it, obviously. I don't think anyone can say otherwise. But what really shocked me about it is that this song is from 2022, which might sound weird to you, but what I mean by that is that this song feels like it's been around for decades to me. Honestly, I heard this as part of a playlist with Dog Days Are Over, and this I was so sure was so much older than it was. When I actually got Dance Fever and realized it was on the album, I was genuinely shocked because this song has instant classic written all over it. The way that it builds to the chorus, the galloping groove that builds up quite subtly with the strings and the echoing backing vocals, the way that Florence has this sort of breathy but very excited delivery that just immediately grabs your attention, and the way she powers through that hook, all of it just throws you off your feet and made for one of the best hooks that Florence and the Machine has ever made, possibly the best, which is saying a lot for an artist who has quite an impressive back catalogue of amazing choruses all across her songs. I just cannot get enough of this song. Every time it plays, I'm just in shock and awe that it's as modern as it is. Somehow Jack Antonoff managed to capture the essence of the best of Florence and the Machine, put it into the production, and gave her possibly her best, or at least most Florence and the Machine-esque accompaniment ever. I adore this song. I love the backing vocals. I love the chorus. I love Florence on it. It's an amazing song. The best song on Dance Fever, at least for me. And God, I cannot wait to see you live in 2023. Feel better soon. I hope that foot injury gets better by then. Tell me where to put my love. Right. It's time for a curveball, you guys. At number 3, the third best song of the year, according to me, is from an album I'm sure many of you didn't even hear. This is Diet Coke / Inside by Leanna Firestone. I mean, look, I came across Leanna Firestone once again, kind of randomly, through a song similar to this one. In fact, it's the first half of this, Diet Coke, which was originally dropped as a single on its own. And it on its own probably would have made my list last year had I heard it sooner, because it is a song about body positivity, but it's a lot darker than most of them. See, most songs about body positivity just say it's either something that is... They treat it as incredibly one note. It's literally just, you should be whoever you want to be, or you shouldn't judge people for who they want to be. That's about it. This covers a spectrum of emotions. Every time I listen to it and I parse through the lyrics, it sounds so simple and straightforward, but there's so much going on in the subtext. She essentially realizes, in a very nerdy kind of delivery that I absolutely adore and is fucking adorkable, that Diet Coke might be a carcinogen, and yet she's been drinking it for years in order to stay thin and skinny. But then she realizes that being thin and skinny, regardless of anything else, still doesn't make it any better when she gets broken up with and is made to feel small and worthless. With all the aspartame in the world, her self-worth is still fucking garbage. And yet, while that might all lead you to go, well, fuck it, I should still drink Coke anyway. I should still drink Coke because, fuck it, if the sugar's gonna have side effects, then whatever. She instead takes the opposite approach, where she's like, you know what? Everything's gonna make me feel small and worthless, so might as well drink the Diet Coke. Might as well flood myself with this thing that might be giving me cancer, because one way or another, nothing fucking matters, and body image, body positivity, and all that crap is exactly that, a load of crap. It's an incredibly cynical song, and it makes me feel so many strange things, both sympathy for her as somebody who has had their fair share of insecurities about their bodies over the years, combined with the fact that she plays this, like, you know, she plays it incredibly well as somebody who probably has felt this way in the past, through eventually just the final lines of the initial song where she just goes, I just like the way it tastes. And as someone who is also similarly addicted to Diet Coke, I really felt that this year. But that alone wouldn't be enough to put it this high on the list, because the second half, Inside, is this sparse little, pretty much minute-long piano ballad where she talks about all the ways that she feels completely worthless as a human being when she sees her body, covering herself up with clothes that are too big because she doesn't want anyone to perceive her. And it is tender, It's real. It's incredibly intimate in a way that really makes you uncomfortable. And it's one of the best moments in pop music all year. This this is two. This is essentially a song with a fragment of a song tacked onto it, which together make for one of the most existential pop songs that I heard all year. And it also made for the best pop song of the year. I can't get enough of this. Much like Diet Coke, in fact. But yeah, I think Liana Firestone deserves so much more attention than she has gotten this year. Again, the album is messy, and the idea of tacking on songs with little snippets towards the end doesn't always work very well, but on this song it created something unique and special that I absolutely adore. Number 2. Let's get to it. The best rap song of the year. It shouldn't surprise you. It's Walkin' by Denzel Curry. You know, it's funny. I remember a couple of years ago somebody asking me, what is your favorite Denzel Curry song? And I said Vengeance, I believe, from Taboo. And I genuinely didn't think that he would make a song that matched that. Because the thing is, Denzel Curry usually makes songs I adore on projects I love to revisit. But not this. This is a level of introspection and maturity that I was not prepared for from him. And it's funny because even with all that being said, I still think I prefer Taboo to Melt My Eyes See Your Future. But I digress. This song on its own goes easily toe-to-toe with anything in his discography so far. I cannot believe that he put together a song this well crafted, from the wonderful echoing backing vocals, the progression of the first half where he talks about the history of not just him, but Black people in his community learning to essentially cope with a society that was constantly knocking them back down and continuing to walk despite that. And the whole metaphor of going from walking to then being knocked down, crawling, eventually getting up and running from the police that chase after him. Like, that entire sequence is so amazing, with some of the best production of the year. And then the beat switch happens. The trap elements come in, and Denzel Curry just goes off with this snapping, in-your-face delivery where he defiantly keeps on walking, heading towards that sunset, regardless of what anyone may think of him. The cowboy metaphors that he throws in across the entire album, the Lone Ranger determined to keep going, despite the fact that he may end up alienating people around him, the fact that he is not just inspired to continue going forwards and maturing as a performer, but also as a person, despite all the challenges that may knock him back, both in his personal life, the ones that may come into his way, or the ones that he may impose on himself. It is the most mature rap song that I've probably heard in years, and Denzel Curry delivered it flawlessly, with one of the best hooks of his career, the best production of his entire career, and yeah, it's the best rap song of the year. There's nothing else I could possibly give it to. Dance Now came close, don't get me wrong, but even it doesn't have the dignity and the majesty that Denzel Curry managed to bring on this song. This was a grower. It was on this list all year, but it just built its way up bit by bit, slowly surpassing everything else, essentially walking past all of its competition. And how can I not respect that? Fucking adore this song, but not quite the song of the year. So, number 1. In the past, my number 1 songs have always been a little bit controversial. They've ranged from songs that nobody in their right minds would ever pick, to deep cuts from albums that I personally love, either because of the content or because of the way it sounds, or simply because of the variety of emotions it makes me feel, like last year's pick. But this year, it was decided very early on, and I was waiting all year for something to surpass it. And again, Walkin' came close, but ultimately, I gotta give it to the Masters. Number 1 is not this. Why is it not playing? Wonderful build up to that, Finn. Well done. Number 1, I Love You by Fontaines DC. I've said on multiple occasions across this list that certain songs serve as a microcosm for how good the album is. And for me, I cannot remember the last time I heard a rock song, let alone a post-punk song, that fucking hit me to my core like this one. The keening, calm, threatening instrumentation that opens up this thing slowly with the echoing atmospherics in the background. The synths just put you in this dark mood. And then the ominous vocals of our frontman come in, almost staring you down and talking about how much he loves you. Of course he does. There's a feeling of intense discomfort across this song as he addresses, once again, his masters. This is a song about a modern Irish person, a person who is living in a country or living in a culture that has been built upon the bones of its forefathers who are long since dead and who we have lost a lot of traditions of, and is replaced with the culture of the people who conquered them. It's a song where he talks about how much he, of course, loves his masters, the UK, the people who made a lot of the things he loves today, but he still struggles with the fact that even though he loves a lot of the innovations and the things that we now call Irish culture, it's not really Irish culture, is it? It's stuff that we inherited from the people who essentially invaded us and occupied us for fucking decades. It's a really dark song, a song struggling with this sense of imposter syndrome, wanting to be patriotic, but also realizing that what you are patriotic for is not actually part of your culture. It's an incredibly dark song, and they do not stray away from pushing that discomfort right in your face with some of the best production of the year. The moment where the instrumentation fades out and he just starts to yell at you, is your daddy Fina Gaeler, is your mammy Fina Fall. It's the most Irish thing I can possibly imagine, and yet there is a pain and an anguish behind every word as the drums start to build up behind him and the guitars, and it just rings out as he cries out before everything comes back for the second build-up that is even more epic the second time round. This song is phenomenal. It is easily my song of the year from one of the best albums of the year. And again, I keep saying it, but if you haven't checked out Fontaines DC and Skinty Fia, their 2022 album, I don't know what you're doing. I Love You by Fontaines DC is my favorite song overall of 2022. Thank you all so much for watching this. This list was quite personal to me, and there were a few moments that it really hit, just how personal some of these songs were. I will be uploading the VOD after this in case you missed some of it, and I'll try to include a full list at some point in the next 24 hours. Maybe I'll even edit it down a bit to cut out the absolute fucking mess that was the first 10-15 minutes. But yeah, to those of you who have been here from the beginning of the stream, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. And to those of you who are just joining now or joined a bit late, I hope you enjoyed what you did see, and I hope you enjoyed going back through the madness that was this list and whatever the hell this idea that I came up with was. Oh man, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to be doing more stuff like this in the future. Take care, everyone, and until the next time, I'm Finn, and this is The Social Tune, signing off.